And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Today we're looking at a game called Dungeon, fantasy board game. It's a very thin game, and it's most certainly a reprint. I'm not sure when the original Dungeon came out, but I want to say it was the 70s, maybe 80s, but it certainly is an old game that's been around for a while. Dungeon is a game where you pick a hero, or a cleric, or a rogue, or a wizard, and you go into a dungeon, try to get a certain amount of gold, and get out as fast as you can. Let me show you how to play it. Here's the board for Dungeon. Each person is going to pick a hero, which is a little token like this, and you'll place it in the Great Hall, which is where you start. Now, these tokens are just cardboard counters, and they fall over a little easily. But even worse, sometimes when you're moving them around, the little piece in the bottom will fall out. But whatever. What you're going to do is, depending on which type of hero you pick, if you pick a cleric or a rogue, you need to get 10,000 gold pieces out of this dungeon and then back to the middle. If you pick a fighter, you need to get 20,000, and then if you pick a wizard, you get 30,000. However, if you do pick a wizard, you will have the choice to get some wizard cards that will help you when you fight different monsters. Now, on your turn, it's very simple. You'll take your character and you'll move him 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As you move across the board, let's focus a little closer on the board, you'll see that there's different spots that you'll move through, and there's different doors to go in rooms. Now, there are what we call secret doors. See here with this orange room? That's a secret door. And the only way to get through a secret door is to stop next to it, roll a 6-sided die, and on the 5 or 6 you find a secret door. Otherwise, your turn ends. So after I'm done in this yellow room here, I could go through the secret door over to the orange room. Now, each of these color rooms that you go into will have an encounter in it, a monster that you have to fight. There's also larger rooms called chambers, like this guard room here. You'll have to fight a monster there too. If you fight and beat the monster in a room, you'll leave a little tombstone token. I guess you thoughtfully bury the monster. And then no one else can go into that room again. Or they can go in there, but there's nothing else in there. If you fight a monster in a chamber, you will put a token there, but there has to be 3 tokens before it's cleared. So you'll find, until there's 3 tokens there, every time you go through the guard room, you're going to find a monster. Guard rooms big rooms like that also don't produce any treasure. The only reason you go through them is because, well, you got to go through them sometimes to get to other spots. Now, you'll notice these rooms are all different colors. That's because these yellow ones here in the middle are level 1. Over here are level 2. Focusing out, the red ones are level 3. The purple ones are 4. These blue ones here are 5, and the turquoise ones over here are level 6. Unlike most dungeons, you don't have to go into level 1 first. You could run down the steps and jump into level 6, but you might not want to do that. And I'll show you why. Let's take a look here at the cards at the top. And you can notice there's a set of cards for each of the levels, 1 through 6. And there's a monster card and a treasure card. So the first thing that you will do on a turn is when you go into a room, you'll turn over to the card to see what monster you have to fight. So let's take a closer look at this monster here. This is a goblin. If a rogue fights him, a rogue has to roll 2 dice and roll a 3 or higher. Well, that's not hard. That means they only miss on a 2. A cleric needs a 4 or higher. A fighter needs a 2 or higher, which means he's going to kill this goblin. A wizard needs a 5 or higher. And if the wizard uses a fireball spell, he rolls 1 die, adds, and needs a 2. And a lightning spell, he would need a 6 with the lightning spell. So it's pretty simple. If you win, you will then take the top level treasure card of your level and see how much you've gotten. Here, we've gotten 500 gold. And these treasures can give us different amounts of gold. And so on level 1, you see here's a 250. Here's one that goes all the way up to 1,000. Here's one at 750. Here's one that's 500. So you can see that the range of these is going to fluctuate back and forth. But you might get something like this, which has a value, but it's also a magic sword. This magic sword will let me put a +1 token in front of me and from now on in all combats I have that extra amount. Or I might get lucky and find a secret door card, which lets me go through all secret doors for the rest of the game. So that's level 1. Level 2, you can see, goes up. Here's a typical monster for level 2. You can see all the numbers have increased, and the treasures here, 750, 2,000 for a silver ring. Moving over to levels 3 and levels 4, we'll see that there's a trap. It just gets you a treasure and it lets you go to any chamber on level 4. That's pretty cool. But here's a evil rogue, and you can see all the numbers have gone up tremendously on these monsters, while the treasures, 1,000, 2,000, 2,000, 1,000. Level 4 treasures, 2,000, 1,000, 2,500. And then you go up to level 5 and 6 till you get to the monsters on level 5 and 6. More traps. Here's a fire giant on level 5. Or the Drider. Or my least favorite, the black pudding. Look, he needs a 12 from everyone except a fireball spell might take him out. But the treasures, as you can see, like look at this level 6 treasure, 7,000. That's quite a bit there. And so really the level versus treasure ratio is pretty simple. 1s are better than 6s. Now if you lose to a monster, that monster is going to stay in that room, and what we'll do is we'll put a number in that room to remember that that's where the monster is, and then we will put the monster that beat you there, the black pudding, we'll put him over here next to number 1 and next to the board, and anyone who beats that monster will kill him and get all the treasures. See, when you lose to a monster, you also likely have to drop a treasure. Now I say likely because you never know. There's actually a chart on the side of the board that you roll 2 dice when you miss a monster, and the monster hits back at you. I'll show you the chart in the book here, since we don't want to rotate the board. But you can see that it's pretty simple. If you roll 12, you're dead. Or 5 or less, you miss. Now, being killed isn't the end of the world. You just start with a new hero, start in the middle, and you start running again. But you can see most of the time when you get hit, you're going to drop different treasure cards. And so that's basically the game. You just got to go around, kill monsters, get treasure, come back to the middle. Go around, kill monsters, get treasure, come back to the middle. First person to get back to the middle with all the treasure they need for their class is the winner.
Why do you have to get out as fast as you can?
I don't know. It's a timed, you're just trying to get, I don't know, maybe that's what you need to be happy. The rogue needs 10,000 gold pieces to be happy. But the wizard's not satisfied unless he has 30,000 gold pieces. Does that make sense? Probably not. Okay, this game, let's talk about component quality. I am not incredibly impressed. This is made by one of the biggest companies on earth when it comes to board games, Hasbro, and you've done great games. This one, it's okay. But those little stand-ups, those little people who run around, little cardboard stand-ups, they fell over all the time. I was really annoyed by those. What did you think? Did you like the artwork, or the board is cool?
Yeah,
the board is cool.
The monsters were also cool.
Yeah, the artwork looks good.
The different treasures, but
well, here's the deal, folks: is that the game itself, even though I am, yelling about the component quality, it's a very inexpensive game. So there's that. But let's talk about this game as is. Dungeon itself. Is Dungeon a complicated game?
No.
No, it's not even remotely a complicated game. In fact, some people say that Dungeon is a children's game, and I think that's a very reasonable thing to say, because it's very simple. You go, you open a door, bam, roll dice, do you win, lose, go. And some people say, "What? This game's so stupid, so few choices." Well, yeah, but it's I've never, that bothers me in some games, but it doesn't bother me in this Dungeon because it's what the game is. What do you think about the game?
I liked it because I liked the part where you moved your person around trying to fight off monsters and then get the treasure afterward. It would be nice if you didn't have to fight every single monster in every room.
Well, you can fight them once and run away. And there are some strategies. Some people grab a bunch of real cheap treasures so that when they fight a monster and they lose, they just leave one of the cheap treasures and run. Also, if you go to the level 1 rooms first, you have a chance of finding a magic sword or the thing that lets you get through, find secret doors. And that's a fast way to get through. And the game kind of lets you pick. Do you want to try to get just cheap stuff and get out fast, or do you want to have to go down to the level 6 as the wizard and get those really big monsters and get out? So overall, this is never a game that I would ever want to play with my friends. But I would play it with kids. And that's exactly where the group is. There are people, and some people disagree with me. Oh, me and my friends have played this the other night and had a great time with this. But I would argue that that's more nostalgia talking than anything else, because there are so many better dungeon games in existence.
This game relies on luck. All the die rolling.
Well, right. Yeah, I mean, there's really not, you're not going to come out winning and say, that's because I did this. No, that's because you happen to go and fight the gelatinous cube and you just lost. Or the black puddings. Black puddings!
My dad stinks at fighting black puddings.
Everyone stinks at fighting black puddings.
Especially you.
Yes, thank you. I like chocolate pudding though. Okay. So overall, this is a game that I would recommend, but to families. What's your final thoughts?
It was a good game to play.
It was a good game to play. All right, good game to play. Not, well, you've already heard my opinion. Why are we saying, we don't need to keep repeating ourselves, repeating ourselves, repeating ourselves, repeating ourselves, repeating ourselves, repeating ourselves.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.
Shut the door!
That's right. Shut it.
There.